Lewis, welcome to the Friday Payroll Club. It is great to have you here. How are you today? You keeping well?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for the invite. I've been anticipating this for quite a while, so yeah, really looking forward to it. So thank you again.
No, it's great to have you here, man. The looks on LinkedIn, you guys are extremely busy at the moment, so appreciate you taking a bit of time out of your Friday to come and join us. And yeah, you guys have got some exciting stuff ahead, so it's good to sit down and have a bit of a chat. I think it's always good just to start out with a bit of an introduction, talk a little bit about you, a little bit about the history of Roots Commercial, and just understand a little bit about kind of, for the people that aren't familiar, who might not know you yet, what's your story? How did you get into the biz of landscaping and construction?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose I've been in construction since I actually left school at 16. I started off in the steel trade. I went to college, got an NVQ in engineering. But then for me, working inside all the time didn't appeal to me. So then I've always been interested in the outdoors, green spaces, so on and so forth. So I decided to take a jump and went into initially grounds maintenance. So I worked for my local authority on a machine cutting grass.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So
It's like a John Deere.
that was where I started, John Deere and a ransom, and then basically progressed from there. Really, I went from being on the tools to being a team leader, and then I went into landscaping. Done some minimal work on the tools in landscaping, but I spent most of my time in management.
Okay.
So I went from supervisor, contracts management roles, running various multi-million-pound sites all across the country for various different companies. Then I had decided that I wanted to get into more of the BD role.
Okay.
Business development, because I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed going to like seminars and exhibitions and just talking about landscaping, as opposed I was better at talking about it than I actually was doing it. So I worked out quite quickly that I was better with my mind than I was with my hands.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just went from strength to strength, really. Progression of career. Spent about 10 years doing contract management, and then a couple of years doing some business development, and this now leads me to the new role that I've taken as a commercial director.
Awesome. What a journey. And I guess it's changed a lot over that time since you first got on and started, which we'll jump into in a minute. But yeah.
I've got a couple of questions. Just reflecting back on like the industry for you, landscaping / construction. How have you seen it evolve over the past year, would you say, like specifically landscaping, but construction as a whole?
I would say it probably, with landscape and as construction, it fully falls into the same bracket, to be honest with you, Aaron. I'd say the rapid emergence of AI and BIM efficiency tools. Technology is moving fast, moving forward, and construction is another sector that really needs to get on board with it and run with it as well. It's growing. There's a lot of focus on sustainability again, and that's moving forward rapidly. So yeah, it's a continuous push, I'd say, and I'd say a lot of people have adapted to it, but a lot of people need to adapt to it. As probably quicker than others.
That's what I was thinking as well. It was either going to be tech, AI, or the workforce itself. So you're saying sustainability and AI predominantly more than the actual workforce shifting. People getting younger or old people phasing out.
There's a balance between both, if I'm totally honest. Like with the workforce side of things, again, that was something that I wanted to touch on today with, regards to, investment into, young people coming into the industry, because you'll find that there's a lot of young people that really don't get into the industry as opposed to when they used to. Investment in people is a key thing for me, and training and development. So I do feel that there's a lack of that within the industry, and sort of cheaper, more quicker options that are available, people tend to go with, which, with budgets and with constraints and profit margins, I totally understand that. But that's, for me, is a short-term fix for a long-term, not for a long-term gain.
Agreed. Are you seeing a difference between like smaller companies versus big companies?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So because obviously the smaller companies like us
adapting a bit quicker.
We're adapting a bit quicker because we see the trends in the market, but we've also have the time and probably resource to do that more as a progression, as opposed to the bigger companies where they've got more overheads, more stuff going on. So there's a bit of pros and cons for both for me.
What has surprised you most about the market for you and your particular kind of space you're in since you guys have, I know you've been in it a long time, but say since Roots?
Well, even before Roots, I would say that for me, that the big surprises over the last, I'd say probably year, is the continued growth of the house builds, the commercial and infrastructure developments across all the sectors, really. Especially if you go on a cost of living crisis, but there seems to be a lot of work out there and a lot of infrastructure that's being put in place, and there's quite a lot of work for for everyone to go at, really.
Yeah.
You know, I feel in that aspect, the construction industry, you know, is in a real good place.
Good. That's a pleasant surprise rather than like a challenge.
Yeah, well, it's we're not in the heights of an upcoming recession, I'd say. So I think you know, it's in a good place on a whole.
Yeah, good. Did you see that coming, or did it kind of catch you off guard?
I'd say I'd see it coming. So we cover all of the south of England, the east of England, and up towards the Midlands. But predominantly, if we're going to focus on London, let's say, you know, there's an old saying going, you know, you're never ever 6 foot away from a rat in London.
Yeah.
You know, at the moment, you're never 6 foot away from a construction project in London. So, you know, it's, for me, it's not a surprise, because everywhere you go, you see it. And even in the rural parts, you know, I live in a Hertfordshire, which is, you know, pretty rural. There's a lot of housing developments going up there, you know, supermarkets. So it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I've seen it everywhere as well, to be fair. Like, especially where I live out in Essex, in Whitton, my little village is quickly morphing into quite a big town. I think there's about 3 or 4 large estates going up just across our village. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that. Last question for you on that section. If you look back at 2025 so far, Lewis, what's been the biggest sort of change or challenge that you've seen?
I think that the challenge is an ongoing challenge that's been, you know, with me personally for years, is the labour shortage and the skills gap. You know, it's always difficult to find good, experienced, reliable, knowledgeable people within the industry. And again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the, you know, the training and you know, the wow factor of getting into the construction industry. Another thing I would say is probably, you know, material costs is always fluctuating. That's a challenge in itself. You know, and supply chain disruptions. You know, there's certain companies that are really good on delivery and getting stuff that we need, but then there's also ones that have that trouble with the logistics or whatever, you know, and then, you know, if they let you down, that snowballs into, you know, us not getting materials on site, the guy's not going to have to do any work, the client not happy, and it just, there's a massive snowball effect that goes from that. So, but that's just part and parcel and nature of the beast of the construction industry. It's something that I've personally dealt with since I've been in it, and I don't think it'll ever change, if I'm totally honest.
I didn't know that in construction you're
well, I'd say it's probably over all sectors. You know, it'll have a detrimental effect with anyone here, healthcare, automotives, anything. If you're not getting something that you've asked for as an order on time, it will have that snowball effect in other parts of the business. So
with the staffing shortfall that you have in like landscape / construction, do you think it's more a workforce issue, a people issue, or a trend in the commercial side of construction?
So I'll address the first point first. I would say the issue is essentially within the construction industry, you know, people move about all the time. I've moved about myself from time to time, you know, and that's, you know, through either, you know, redundancies or companies going under or, you know, just not happy where you are, getting a better offer. It's part and parcel, and that goes from management down to people on the tools. There's always, like, I'd say, revolving door system. You know, there's a lot of people in and out. So I don't think that will ever change because, you know, for myself personally, you know, I've been headhunted a few times, and, you know, it's not ever always been, you know, a financial gain. It's whatever suits you better, family life, location, and so on and so forth. The other point I would say is I don't feel that nowadays with the, you know, generational thing, that the construction industry is an appealing industry to go into. One, I'd say maybe it's a financial thing, but I say for me personally, it's more of a generational thing where, again, we go back to technology. We go back to people can sit there and earn a lot of money from their computer, or doing TikToks or doing Instagram reels, you know.
Roblox YouTube video.
Well, exactly, yeah. So, and if it's an easier way to make money, people are going to do it, you know, like.
And it's cold in the winter outside landscaping or building, and, you know, not that loads goes on, but you've got to be doing stuff all through the year, haven't you?
Yeah,
rain or shine, right?
Or it's baking hot in the summer. So
Yeah.
That's why I say for landscaping, our key seasons are spring and autumn.
We had a guest on recently, again from the construction industry, and they're also putting up a lot more financial barriers to entry for people to kind of get into the industry.
Yeah,
CS, grandfather rights, and
a lot of money
God,
there.
yeah. So when I had done the CSCS test when it first came out. I'm showing my age now. And so it was 2 weeks, and I took a CSCS test, and it was like doing a theory test.
That's
30 questions, touchscreen, done. And I get on site now. You know, I've gone from doing that, and I've had to do a triple STS. I've done SMSTS, which twice. So I've had to do a fresh. They're like 2-week courses,
right?
You know, so in each one. So yes, there is a lot, but then again, that is a blocker. But then I also agree with that being in place because of the health and safety side and
sure.
element of it as well. You know, when I first started on site, health and safety was just
It was one person. It
it
was
weren't even that. There was some stuff I see that God, you wouldn't even be able to condone it now.
Yeah.
So I get it from that point of view, but again, you know, it's all about making it appealing for people to go through them processes to be able to get on board and get to that. So it's a difficult task, I'd say, but it's something that does need addressing from my point of view.
It would be nice to see maybe some, I don't know if there are any, but some government schemes to helping with the cost of that for these new
At least
guys, or even for
subsidised in some
companies to
form.
Yeah,
supply
so
it,
there
you know,
is the
some
thing
sort
called government levy, which they probably more of the bigger companies they do subsidise and help with the training of certain people. But again, you know, the days of like, you know, the YTS and the apprenticeship training schemes, you know, they're not really sort of relevant now, and they don't really, you don't hear of them as much as you used to when I was of that age.
Well, I remember in school you used to have people come around and doing kind of job fairs about it, and you know, people coming in that were, you know, master trade of whatever industry, and having a bit of a job fair that encouraged people, or like in Australia was TAFE, tertiary entry something or other. There again, showing my age now, but yeah, it's there's a lot of synergy across the gig economy with young people coming into it. It seems as though it's kind of an aging market almost, and not enough been done to fill that gap earlier on, because tech is not the solution. I mean, yeah, tech's great, does a lot of the stuff we want it to do and simplifies onboarding, as we've spoken about, but does it actually mean that it's going to be able to go out and find people that want to join the industry? Probably not.
I 100% agree with you, and I was thinking about actual podcast I listened to you done previously, and about robot bricklayers.
Yeah,
there's
AI
pros and
bricklayers.
cons for both, but I think I'd rather employ a guy with 20 years experience than a robot to lay bricks on my house, if I'm totally honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to make it tea though, I suppose, but
I think looking forward then, we've spoken a lot, and thanks so much for sharing your opinion so far. I think, like, looking ahead into the next 12 months, you know, where do you see kind of, I mean, April, there's a lot of changes obviously come in. We've got umbrella reform and legislation changes. You've also got budget is now. We're talking about that a lot, and a lot of people have concerns. I think people are getting nervy. You know, there's a lot of change happening, and some for good, some for worse. What do you think it's going to look like for construction and, I guess, soft construction in the next 12?
I actually feel that there'll still be a continued growth in all the sectors. But again, the focus does need to be on the labour shortages and you know, the skills gaps and apprenticeships, because that's the only way that the industry, for me, will move forward positively. With all the other the items that you mentioned there, again, you know, it's just another hurdle to jump. You know, there's always hurdles within the industry with legislations and, you know, just new controls and expectations from clients. It's just something that, from our perspective, and from, you know, most people in construction perspective, it's just something that you learn and adapt to and just deal with as it comes.
Just jump over the next hurdle as
Yeah.
it comes down the
Okay,
track.
what do I need to do? How do I do it? I'll get it done.
How do I do it quite fast? Because
Yeah.
I think it's that again. The gig economy. I always say it's kind of constant. The landscape is constantly changing, and you know, every year there's something that we end up talking about in April. Looking forward, then, is there anything that you kind of highlight as a particular trend that's going to help move your business forward from five weeks of infancy? Looking in the next couple of months as kind of stabilizing, I'm assuming, and just getting everything kind of that you promised out, but moving into January, February, March time, like what's that first quarter in the new financial look like for you guys?
Well, it's looking promising. As I said, we've secured this amount of work, and that's basically guys and boots on the ground up until Christmas. Without that, continuing into the new year. So I'm personally looking further ahead of that now. So we have, you know, quite a lot of tenders on the go at the moment. And what I do going into January, February, and into the spring, to sort of echo back to what we discussed before with what trend do I see in the construction industry, I would say, again, it's the integration of the digital technologies, and that's going to be the hot topic. You know, I'd say before the AI bandwagon started going along, it was all about sustainability and biodiversity, which is still at the forefront.
Definitely.
But now it's the AI. It's the AI. People want to invest in that. And again, for me, there's pros and cons for both with the AI. I think it's great in certain aspects, but, you know, from my personal view, a lot of people might disagree, I think sometimes AI is a lazy way out of doing things.
But AI is a tool. It's not there to do all the heavy lifting. I don't think it's there to do everyone's job from sign in to sign off, but where it can help and where people should lean into it is where admin for admin's sake. Like, we talk about compliance, we talk about admin, we talk about spreadsheets. Like, obviously a lot of that can be done really quickly through the help of artificial intelligence and robot bricklayers. You know, yeah, great, we build houses with automation, but ultimately that human element and the hard graft and the strategy, direction, and where to put that trowel when the job needs to be done, that's got to be down to a human element, which I guess is where you guys come in.
Again, I'd agree with you there. I would say, again, that there's pros and cons for both, and everyone's going to have a different opinion of it. But to use it as an example, is AI going to be able to be on site and find a solution to a problem that arises?
Or just lift the bricks.
Site. So, is AI going to do that? No, it's not. It's the human element. It's the human brain. It's experience, it's knowledge that's going to be able to do that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but there's pros and cons for both sides. So, you can argue about it or debate about it, should I say, all day long. People are going to have a different opinion on it.
No, I think your guy on site is going to go there with his human knowledge and experience, but maybe he's taken a photo of the problem, that twisted bit of whatever it is that's broken, and he's putting it into an AI, or perhaps using AI to help book and process and manage that repair job or whatever it is that he needs to organise.
But then again, like that, so that's a great example. So I'll go from something that we do is this: if we've got guys are on site and there's an issue, we've got WhatsApp groups that we have together. Send a photo of it. Right, there's an issue here, and then there's a collective people that are on that group will say, "Oh, here's the solution to that problem." Again, so that's technology working with the human element. So it's pros and cons for both, and that's where they come together. And that's probably why moving forward, that's where they need to come together. Where it ain't one or the other, it's how they merge.
Yeah. It's super interesting. I mean, God forbid referencing other podcasts on a podcast. But Elon Musk, speaking about AI and some of the stuff that's going on there, he was on Rogan a little while back. They're saying in the next 6 years, it's not even going to be the WhatsApp group. It's not even going to be a phone. It's not going to be an app. You're just going to have direct input from AI, and that AI will know what you want to do with it.
Straight into your brain.
It's not even into the brain, but it's going to be a completely different way of integrating or using technology. And I think where I'm trying to get to here is we're in the infancy. How much has the bandwagon been jumped on for AI? And we've said before, AI for AI's sake doesn't fix anything. It just adds to noise. But I think that kind of amalgamation of human and AI is really where the industry needs to go. One, from an economic standpoint, people need to get paid and people need to go to work. We don't just want a generation of people that want to get things for free. I think that there's a spiritual desire to have rewarding, satisfying
from what you do.
I think that there's a level of personal satisfaction that you get from completing a job. Whereas if everything is robots and beeps and boops and whatever else, where does that leave the state of the economy if no one's actually going in to do the job?
Surely we have to have the human element to manage that.
Do it and put it in.
Fix it when it goes wrong, because undeniably it's going to go wrong at some point, isn't it?
Honing in onto our white paper, which is what we're here to talk a little bit about today. And we've spoken about this a bit earlier, actually, Lewis, in terms of, there's a lot of different macroeconomic challenges that the UK is facing. Inflation, cost of living, that's a big part. We've definitely spoken and covered this in detail over the last episodes. But the construction industry is obviously at the tail end of that. You got material costs. It's contributed to a projected 0.7 contraction into the UK's construction industry last year. How do you feel as though that's going to kind of impact this year, I guess? Have you guys seen a difference in cost of material? Does that align to what you're seeing in the moment?
I'll be honest with you, material costs always fluctuates. It sort of hit its heights, during the pandemic. Timber and cement, just rocketed. Yeah. In regards to what I'm seeing is it's we're delivering living things, essentially, plants, shrubs,
turf,
so again, there is always fluctuation with the cost of that, but I wouldn't say it's a massive detrimental effect on us, or it's also a big jump or a big not. It sort of balances itself out. It's not too bad in the other sectors of
labour
the industry.
Costs.
Yeah, labour costs, but there's also the cost in prefabricated stuff that it's more cost effective to do it off site than it is on site and stuff like that. So then it's more cost effective for the company, but then it puts the prelim up for the consumer that's buying that, So I can see it in that term, but from a landscape point of view, it's not really affected us per se.
UK construction, mental health has been a big part of that. Some sad stats, but for example, the suicide rates in the sector have risen from 26 to 34 per 100 1,000 people. Is there anything you can pick out how that aligns with what you're seeing?
Yeah, I would say in regards to that with us per se, it has not been relatable, but
Yeah.
it's always been a big thing. You know, when, as I said, previous roles have been construction management and contract management, working with the guys and doing induction, it's always brought up in inductions regarding mental health, and you know, especially like, you know, the videos that the contractors do on site. So it's always a topic, and it always does need discussion because you know, let's face it, you know, there's always that stigma that men don't talk about mental health.
Yeah.
You know, and it ain't just men; it's women in the construction industry as well. You know, there is a lot of women in the construction industry. I'd say probably the main factors is it could be a number of things. You know, it could be personal stuff out of work, pressures of work. I would say that them stats are not. You know, they're not really nice reading, but them stats could be benchmarked against other industries. You know, it could be the shortfall through all of the industries. You just don't know. But I would say it wouldn't boil down to just you know, the construction industry. I would say it just boils down to life.
Yeah.
You know, the pressures of life is the main factor, isn't it? So
yeah. And on that note, it's okay to not be okay. And it's obviously, if there is anyone in that network that needs to speak to someone, reach out. I'm sure, you know, there are people around that will be able to support and lend an ear on that note. 2026 legislation moving swiftly on. You know, we're looking forward into the new year. We talked about it on our last few episodes. There's new legislation coming up in 2026. Have you been doing much preparation around it? And if you've not, it's okay. We can maybe close some of those gaps for you. But yeah, have you heard much about it in the sector?
Particularly because what obviously that would be down to our compliance queen, which you'll like me reference to Emma. I would say that, you know, the main challenges of it is client documentation control, you know, their expectations with their planning, you know, and there's a lot of particular focus around, you know, climate change, sustainability and biodiversity targets.
For sure.
So there's a lot to get through with that legislation. However, I would say, like I echoed earlier, it's learning, it's adapting, it's, you know, taking in the knowledge that you're given and working through that, and then just overcoming them hurdles. So, you know, again, there's always different qualifications or certifications or accreditations that you need, and you just roll with it and you just adapt. So I don't see it being a massive issue for us, and to be honest, I don't see it being a massive issue for anyone really with the legislation. It's just another hurdle to jump over, isn't it?
For sure.
Yeah, on that kind of point, like with these hurdles and legislations and conversations you're having with your clients, can you pick out any like particulars that you're hearing from clients or partners at the minute that they're concerned about, or what's kind of the buzz? What's people talking about in your space?
Again, it's probably echoing back, and I'm sounding repetitive, but it is the main focus of, you know, climate change, sustainability, hitting biodiversity and net gain targets and stuff. So, you know, that's been a hot topic for a while now, and that is what they need to do, because it's Guinness in the legislations for them targets to hit. And, you know, everyone's got targets, and that's just another one, I would say, that needs to be, you know.
Well, there we go. We've got through our episode. But look, Lewis, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Really, really great to hear a little bit about Roots Commercial Landscaping. And you guys are obviously onto big things. I mentioned earlier, lots of stuff on social. If people want to check you out, where should they go?
Well, we've just got up our website, which we're currently developing further. But so obviously, you can find that www.withroots.co.uk. And obviously, if you wanted to follow us on LinkedIn, there's a page for it on LinkedIn. And then my personal LinkedIn, just search my name and keep up to date of what we're doing, because I'm quite prevalent on there. I always like to share what the guys are doing, especially, you know, photos speak volumes. So it's always good to showcase the good work that they do.